your sleeping problem could be happening because your pulse rate is just too high. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the reasons why your pulse rate could be too high. Number one, it could be a vitamin B1 deficiency, which a lot of times comes from a high-carb diet. There's many other causes, and I've done many videos on B1, but if you're deficient in B1, you could have a higher pulse rate. All right, number two, a potassium deficiency. Potassium is a physiological tranquilizer. It calms the nervous system down. If you're deficient in potassium, your pulse rate will tend to be on the high side, and also your blood pressure will also be on the high side. And so what can create a potassium deficiency? Well, it could be you're just not consuming enough potassium. So you need to consume more salads, because if you start having bigger salads, like at least 7 cups a day, you're going to get more potassium and magnesium, which is another mineral to help calm things down. Also, a high carb diet will cause a potassium deficiency. Too much acid. So if you're too acidic, that can cause tachycardia, or it can raise your pulse rate. I remember consuming a whole bottle of kombucha tea right before bed, and my pulse rate was like boom, 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 boom. So that's one thing to look for. Number 4, stress. If you're stressed out, that can raise cortisol or adrenaline. I have a lot of videos on that, so I'll put that link down below. But cortisol and adrenaline can keep your pulse rate too high. I mean, try to sleep if you're in a stress situation or you're being chased by a tiger. Next one is overtraining. If you exercise too much, that can keep your pulse rate up. And that really has a lot to do with number 7, which is an autonomic nervous system dysfunction. If you're deficient in your parasympathetic nervous system, the recovery system, and you're kind of sympathetic dominant, and you exercise too much, that's not a good combination. So what you need to be doing is long walks, and you need to restore the autonomic nervous system by more vitamin B1. That will help. But overtraining is a thing that can definitely keep your pulse rate higher. I remember in practice one time, I had this lady come in, and I told her to exercise in my clinic because we had a little gym, and her pulse rate went up to 158. She comes back the next day, her pulse rate was still at 158. And I tested her, and she had no parasympathetic nervous system, which is the recovery system. It actively pushes your pulse rate down. So that was a good lesson for me, that you really want to check the person's recovery system before you have them exercise, especially if it's a higher pulse rate type exercise. Number 6, a hot flash will increase your pulse rate. Number 8, certain medications will increase your pulse rates. Anemia is another thing that can increase your pulse rate. Next one is a hyperthyroid situation. And by the way, if you have hyperthyroidism and you take B1, that can help with that condition. 11, either you have high blood sugars or a low blood sugar situation. That can increase your pulse rate. I have a lot of videos on both of those conditions. And 12, and I should have put this higher up on this list, but a gallbladder problem. If you start the ketogenic diet and you have a gallbladder problem, and you add all this fat to the diet, and you don't have enough bile salts because of various situations, it could overload the gallbladder and create more sludge within the gallbladder system. And I'm not even talking about a gallstone. I'm just talking about a backup into the bile ducts, which creates pressure in the liver, which is right next to the heart, and that can create a pulse rate situation. So if you start keto and you're adding all this extra fat from these keto bombs, or you're eating all this butter, or you're adding MCT oil, you might want to just consume the fat that normally comes with the protein until you can build up that bile reserve, and at the same time take some good gallbladder support. And I put a link down below if you want more information on that. All right, so let's go through the list of things that you can do. If you're having more fat, maybe reduce the fat, take bile salts, number 1. Number 2, increase your potassium and magnesium from the foods, more salads, and you can also get it in electrolyte powder as well. Number 3, decrease the amount of protein if you're on a high protein diet, and make sure it's a moderate amount of protein, okay? Because too much protein can act as a stimulant, and that can rev up the engine. And especially if you're deficient in potassium, you can actually prevent someone's sleep by having too much protein. All right, number 4, tone down the amount of exercise you're doing and the intensity of exercise. If you're doing CrossFit, you might want to not do CrossFit because your recovery might be too low. Number 5, cut down some of the caffeine. I always recommend just doing 1 cup of coffee per day. If I do more than 1 cup of coffee, and I'm talking like a small cup, that will affect my sleep. So watch the caffeine on that. Number 6, low carb. Number 7, go on long walks in nature, very important. And number 8, regulate your breathing. So when you're sleeping at night, you may find that your breathing is erratic or you're in the stress mode with this breathing. So really slow down and regulate the breathing in and out. So the inhalation is the same as the exhalation, and focus on that. You can even focus on your stomach coming out and your stomach coming in and that breathing. And that will tend to help you actually control the autonomic nervous system because you're actively affecting your breathing, which then can affect that part of the nervous system. All right, thanks for watching. So if you're enjoying my content, which I hope you are, and you're applying this knowledge to your health, and you have a success, I would really appreciate you sharing your success story. So click the link down below to my website where you can upload your success story so you can help inspire others.